Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Glad that you are here. For those of you out in the foyer, grab your coffee. Come on in. We're going to get the service started. And for those of you online, welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning. Hey, we got a few announcements for us. First of all, we have a Good Friday service happening on Friday. That's right. Man, you're connected. You're there. Thanks for tracking with me. So this Friday, 11 a.m., we're going to have a Good Friday service. We're going to celebrate the death of our Lord and what that means. And it's going to be a service where we reflect on the story. So we're going to be reading through the whole passage and pausing to reflect on what it would have been like to live through that story and to be there. So I encourage you to be here. There will be kids ministry for that morning, but 11 a.m. Also, be praying and preparing to give to our compassion offering on that on that Friday, specifically on Good Friday and on our Christmas Eve services. We give to our compassion offering, and our compassion offering goes to the needs that are specifically in our community. When someone comes and says, "I have a need that is beyond my means," and they ask for help, we use these funds to serve those people and to bless those people. So, with it being a holiday that celebrates how much Jesus gave to us, I would encourage you to be praying and saying, hey, how can I be generous and give to others? So be praying to consider how much you need to be giving to that compassion offering this Friday. Beyond that, we have a couple other things coming up. We have a membership class starting on April 13th at 7 p.m. If you're interested in membership, talk to the office at office@mypac.tv or just give the office a call during your office hours, and they would love to chat with you. Another big thing that we have coming up is our 24/7 prayer, and what we're really excited about is that this will be happening in person 24 hours, which means that we'll be praying through the night, in the dark, 2 a.m. Someone's going to be in a room, and that sign-up is open now. So if you want to go to our website, you can sign up and start booking an hour time for you to go and come to the church and pray. And we'll be praying into our 4 prayers and looking for what God's going to be doing. So we're getting to live in an amazing time where we're seeing a lot of the prayers that we've been praying for years being answered. And it's going to be really important for us as a community to be praying into the future, praying to see what God's going to continue to do. So I would encourage you to be part of that. As become our custom, we'll also be finishing that prayer week with a worship night. So on April 22nd at 6 p.m., we'll be here on that Saturday evening, and we'll be celebrating what God has done that week, and also use that evening to celebrate what God is going to do with the prayers that we prayed. Last but not least, May 13th, it's a Saturday. It's going to be our PAC family celebration, and here's what's so important about this day. We are going to have every single campus come on down to Portage. So that's Dryden, Dauphin, Neepawa. We'll all get to be here. There will be faces that you see that you don't recognize unless you were here a year ago at our last PAC family celebration. But they're part of the family. And we want to be able to celebrate that together. So we're going to have food, we're going to have games, we're going to have a service to be able to celebrate unity and celebrate what God's doing, but you're going to want to be there. So make sure you grab your phone right now, put that in the calendar, May 13th on that Saturday, and we'll have our PAC family celebration. So, with all those announcements, I know they're kind of like a flurry and a blur, but if you have any questions, just head over to our website, and it's all there, and you can find the details. Beyond that, why don't you stand with me right now? Go ahead, stretch those legs. And today is an up week, and we follow this 4-week rhythm of up, side, down, and party. On an up weeks, we want to focus on our relationship with Jesus and how we want to welcome others into that. So today we're going to read this opening prayer together. And as we read it together, I would encourage you to let's have a posture of being ready to receive from God. So if it helps, maybe even take your hands, put them in front of you, and we can do this as a symbol, as a sign, like we want to be ready to catch and receive what He has for us. And then let's read this opening prayer together, and then we're going to sing. And as we sing, let's engage God with our imaginations and be paying attention to the words that we sing, and then we'll be preparing to hear from Him later today. So let's read this together. Father God, our hands are open and lifted up. We are ready to release and receive. Lord Jesus, our heads are lifted up without shame. Your forgiveness shines on our faces. We are looking to see what you will show us. And now, please draw us up into yourself, transforming us to be like Christ Jesus as we sing, pray, and listen. All right, let's sing together. All right, sing this out. Christ is my firm foundation. foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaking. Oh, I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause He's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would He fail now? He won't. He won't. Oh, I've still got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense. No, I won't be going under. I'm not held by my own strength, 'cause I built my life on Jesus, and He's never let me down. He's faithful in every season. So why would He fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. No, He won't. He won't. Sing it out. He won't fail. He won't fail. Christ is my firm foundation. Yes, He is. The rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaking. Oh, I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause He's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. Oh, so why would He fail now? He won't. He won't. No, He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. I encourage you to remember back to His faithfulness, all the times He's carried you through. And in response, let's sing this to Him. Rain came, wind blew, my house was built on you. I'm safe with you. I'm going to make it through. Rain came, wind blew, my
love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up till I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire and in darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. It's your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna sing. Oh, 'cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. There was a moment when the lights went out, when death claimed its victory. The King of love had given up his life. The darkest day in history. There on the cross they made for sinners. For every curse his blood atoned. When final breath and it was finished, but not the end we could have known. For the earth began to shake, and the veil was torn. What sacrifice was made as the heavens roared. Oh, hail King Jesus. Oh,
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lydia. I'm one of the pastors here, and it's really great to be with you this morning. Yesterday, I had the chance to get to the airport to welcome back our crew of 6 students and 2 staff who went to Mexico. And some of them actually are here this morning, which is amazing because they had to get on their plane in Mexico City at midnight on Friday, and then they got in at noon on Saturday. So they were traveling for 12 hours, but like the worst possible 12 hours that you could possibly travel. So if you get a chance to see them, if they're yawning at you, it's okay. They're still kind of recovering. And they have school tomorrow. So, yeah. They had a great 10 days off in Mexico, and I've been able to hear a little bit about some of their stories, and I'm excited to hear more about what God has done with them, through them, and among them. So it's been really exciting to see that. This morning is Palm Sunday, and in the church calendar, we celebrate Palm Sunday as the Sunday where Jesus comes into Jerusalem on his way to the cross. As Jake said in the announcements, we have Good Friday service coming up on Friday. And so as we kind of walk through this week, we remember and we celebrate what Jesus did for us. And this week, our I am statement of Jesus happens actually in this week, which is kind of interesting. But before we get to that statement, I want to kind of talk about and kind of set the scene for what's happening around the disciples and with Jesus, what is making him say these things, and what is happening around there. So, if you will, just humor me, engage your imagination for a bit. We're going to talk about what it would have been like to be in Jerusalem and seeing and experiencing and smelling and being part of that whole situation that would bring out Jesus' next I am statement. So, to set the scene, imagine that you have traveled to Jerusalem. Now, this is ancient world, so you've traveled a really long way, which would probably be not very far in our standards with a car, but you've been walking, so it's a very long way. You get to this really bustling city, and it's more busy than normal, because this is the time when we celebrate Passover. We celebrate that many, many years ago, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, your people were part of were under an oppressive empire, the Egyptian empire, and they were being made to be slaves, and they weren't seen as people. And yet God created this person. He rose up this leader to bring them to freedom. And there was miracles, and there were songs that were sung, and there's celebrations. And from that day forward, every year, you celebrate. But Passover means a little bit more to you, because you know what it was like to be those ancient Israelites under the oppressive empire of Egypt, because you are an Israelite under the oppressive regime of Rome. No matter what you do, you'll never be really successful. No matter how much you work, they won't actually look at you like you're a person. No matter what you do, you can never get ahead. You just work. They don't care if you're sick. They don't care about you at all, just as long as you pay their tax money and as long as you don't make too much of a problem for them. They'll be happy enough to leave you alone. If you dare step out of line, they'll kill you, and they won't care. And so here you are, and you've come to Jerusalem to celebrate this time when God has freed your people. And of course you're saying, God, do it again. God, rise up another person among us who will take this people who are making our lives miserable, take them away. Do what you did with the Egyptians. Make this better. So as you come into Jerusalem and you see all these sights and you see all these people, you see all these animals, some of which have been brought into Jerusalem special because there's lots of sacrifices that are happening. Just imagine the bustling and the smells and the sights. And you see somebody running past you. They got a palm branch in their hand. And they say something about Messiah. And that kind of makes your head pop up a little bit, because that's what you've been yearning for. That's the name of the person that the Bible has talked about, that God would send a Messiah, somebody from God to free you. And so you look to see where they're running, and you hear a bunch of people shouting. John 12, verse 12, says it this way. The news that Jesus was on the way to Jerusalem swept through the city. A large crowd of Passover visitors took palm branches and went down the road to meet him. And here's what they're shouting. Praise God. Blessings on the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Hail to the King of Israel. You've heard these words before. They're in the Bible. They're quoting from the Bible. They're quoting when God says he's going to send somebody to rescue you. Can you imagine what that would be like? The excitement that would well up within you. God's not just going to rescue my people. He's going to rescue my people in my lifetime. And he's not just going to rescue us in my lifetime. He's going to do it like this week. This is here. This is now. It gets even more intense as you look down the road, and John says Jesus found a young donkey and rode on it, fulfilling the prophecy that's in the Bible. The prophecy, and you know this because you would have studied this as a kid. Don't be afraid, people of Jerusalem. Look, your king is coming riding on a donkey's colt. Oh my goodness, this is exciting. God is going to do something amazing right in front of me, and I'm here for it. Can you feel that excitement? Maybe for you, as you think about what God is up to, maybe in your life or at PAC, you're kind of filled with this excitement. We will see some amazing things happen. Maybe this is where you are. You hear people talking about Jesus and you hear people talking about what he's up to, and you just are filled with excitement. And you can identify with these people who are grabbing palm branches, ripping off their coats, putting them down, yelling, "All hail King Jesus," like we were just singing. But maybe not. Maybe that's not you this morning. And in this scene, there's another group of people. There are the disciples. John says this, his disciples didn't understand at that time that this was the fulfillment of prophecy. After Jesus entered into his glory, they remembered what happened, and they realized that these things had been written about them. The disciples are confused. I think this would have been probably one of the hardest times to be a disciple. Because if you think about it, earlier on, Jesus is doing all these miracles. Jesus is healing people, and he's changing things. He's walking on water. He's teaching things. He's making your mind think different ways, and he's opening up your eyes to seeing different things. But lately, things have gotten a little heavier. Jesus seems to maybe sometimes be talking about how he's going to leave. And I would imagine that if I was a disciple, I would kind of wonder if that was me. Am I just tired? Am I just overwhelmed with all the things that are happening? Or is this really when I think he should be really excited, Jesus is heavy. Jesus is starting to say goodbye. Is that just in my head? I think this would be a really hard time. They're watching these things. They're confused by it. They're seeing people being really angry with Jesus. And then they see people like this that are screaming at the top of their lungs about Jesus is the king. This would be so confusing. And maybe that's where you're at this morning. I mean, I imagine for the disciples that all of the bustling of the Passover celebration, you just really want to have a big mute button and just be like, everybody be quiet so I can think. But there's no time to think. There's something mooing in the background, and there's all the things of a bustling city. And you just would want some time, but you don't have it. Time to ask questions, time to do all this stuff. But you just don't. It's just too much. It's confusing. And maybe that's where you're at this morning. Maybe when you think about the things Jesus is doing, it's a little different than you thought it would be. Maybe there's some things that you've been praying for and you haven't seen them yet, and you kind of wonder, am I gonna see this? Was I wrong? Maybe doubt's starting to come in as far as what you believe and what you've seen Jesus do. Or there's a third group of people in this scene. They're probably getting caught up in the excitement, but that they're also, something's going to change for them. In verse 37 of chapter 12, it says, despite all these miraculous signs Jesus had done, most of the people still did not believe in him. Maybe that's kind of closer to where you're at. Let me flesh that out a little bit. So earlier, if we think about Palm Sunday, so today, these people are caught up in all of the excitement of people yelling, "All hail King Jesus." But in 4 days, those people are going to yell, "We have no king but Caesar." Today, they're saying blessing on the one who comes in the name of the Lord. And in 4 days, they're going to say, "Crucify him." What happens in your heart? How much does your heart have to shatter to go from one thing on Sunday to one thing on Friday? It was disappointment, isn't it? These people thought Jesus was going to do something, and he didn't do it. They thought he was going to step in and do things the way they thought it should happen. And when Jesus doesn't, it turns into anger. If you keep reading, you'll find out Jesus' response to those people. Do you know what it is? He says, "Father, forgive them." And so maybe this morning you have not seen where God has come through. You're having a hard time figuring out why he didn't answer this prayer or why he didn't do it in the way that you asked. And that question is leading to doubt or fear or anger, just like for these people in this scene. And for that, Jesus has the same thing to say to all of us, whether we're excited, whether we're confused, or whether we're angry. After this scene, Jesus starts what we call his farewell discourse, which is basically just a fancy way of saying Jesus says goodbye for a really long time. And in these things that he's saying to them, he talks about how they should live. He talks about how to get along without him. He gives them some final ideas and words and some wisdom. And then he talks about who he is. And this is the I am statement that we have before us. Keeping that scene in mind, this is what he says. "I am the true grapevine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch that doesn't produce fruit, and he prunes the branches that do bear fruit so they will produce even more. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I have given you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. Yes, I am the vine, and you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch that withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile to be burned. But if you remain in me and my words remain in you, you may ask for anything you want, and it will be granted. When you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples, and this brings great glory to my Father." Now, this can be a little bit tricky to kind of get into what he's saying on these I am statements, if you think about it, because he's using like figurative language, which is language that is pictures of things, so it's kind of comparisons, and they don't always work. And then the other thing is he's doing this like thousands of years ago in a different language. So to kind of figure out figurative language with that many different things to it, I think one of the things we have to keep in mind is to keep it where Jesus kept it, and not try to extrapolate it till it doesn't make sense anymore. So as we do that, thinking about this kind of metaphor, this comparison between Jesus and a vine. Now, this would have been really common if you'd walked around where the disciples were walking around. They probably saw these kind of vineyards all over the place, and they would know things about how to look after a vine, like a gardener would have to. So like if we're thinking like Manitoba, you'd probably be like, Jesus would probably be talking about like a tree. I'm not 100% sure what he would use if he was talking about Saskatchewan, because they don't have trees. So I'm from Saskatchewan, so I can say that. maybe like a piece of grass. It doesn't really work. But we'll stick with the tree or with the vine. So Jesus is saying that branches that do what they're supposed to do are the ones that are connected to the vine. A branch that's not connected to the vine doesn't do what it's supposed to. A branch is supposed to be fruitful. A branch is supposed to have leaves and fruit on it. In a vine, in a grapevine, you don't get fruit on the main vine, you get it on the branches. And so a branch is supposed to. If a branch isn't connected in, there's no way you're going to get grapes from it. It's just going to wither. It's going to die. It's not going to work. It's going to flounder. But if that branch is connected into the vine, it's going to flourish. And we're the same. The other thing that he says here is that God is the expert gardener. He knows exactly what needs to happen in order for that branch to flourish. See, there are actually two things that a branch needs to flourish. It needs to be connected to the vine, and it needs to be pruned. Now, sometimes I think we can think about this in a way that's like, if something good comes into our life, God will prune it away so that we just focus on Him. But that's kind of, I think, messing up what good and bad is. If you're thinking about an actual gardener with an actual vine, you prune away the stuff that gets in the way. You prune away the stuff that's going to make the branch not flourish. So it might be uncomfortable, but it's not bad. There's a difference between when bad things happen and when God is pruning us. One's uncomfortable. And God doesn't promise us that He'll make us a comfortable life. He promises that He'll make us a good life where we flourish, where we are who we were created to be. But He doesn't cause bad things to happen so that we will focus on Him. He doesn't take away good things in order for us to focus on Him. What He does is He prunes away the stuff that's going to cause problems for us. Do you see the difference? It could be subtle. But sometimes we can make the mistake of thinking that things that are happening in our life are happening because we're being under attack. But it might be pruning. It might not actually be a bad thing. It might be pruning. Jesus uses this really strange word for pruning in the Bible here, and it's very similar to the word purify, which is kind of a funny thing if you think about it. But he's making the point that purifying and pruning is kind of the same thing. He's making us into who we were meant to be. So it is a good thing. See, a branch can't flourish if it's not connected. It can't flourish if it's not being pruned so that it can get to the sunlight so it can produce fruit. And we're the same way. We can't flourish if we're not connected. One more, just kind of a thought about the pruning thing. If you were going to prune a bush or prune a vine, prune a tree, this isn't hacking it away so that it makes a better, you can see through your window because it's growing over. This is actually doing something that makes the vine better. But the other part is, if you've ever done any kind of pruning in a shrub or anything like that, you'll know that you have to really know what you're doing. And in order to get in there and actually make those changes to it, to shape it into what it needs to be, the gardener is the closest to that branch when they're pruning. They're right in there. They're present. They're with that branch. They know every little nook and cranny of it. They know which way it's got to grow. They know exactly what to do in order to make it hit the sun as much as it can. That's the closest that the gardener is ever to the tree. And it's not done out of, get this out of my way. It's done out of, let me make this flourish. But in this, he says, so this is how it is. In order to flourish, you need to be connected to Jesus, and you need to allow him to shape you. And basically, Jesus call to us is stay with me. Just stay. Stay through it. So for those really excited people who are watching Jesus come in and they're laying down their coats and they're laying down their palm branches, Jesus says, stay with me. Stay with me through your excitements. You're going to see that better is coming than you even know. Through the people who are confused, what is Jesus actually up to? Jesus says, stay with me. It'll become clear, and then it will become confusing, and then it will become clear again. Just stay with me. And for those of us and those in the story who are angry, Jesus says the same thing. Stay with me. See it through the ups and through the downs. Just stay. Remain. Some translations say abide. Stay. Isn't that ridiculously simple? Like you kind of want, I don't know, I feel like sometimes I kind of want like 7 steps to do in order for this to work. And yet Jesus is like, just stay. Just be with me. I will be with you. Let's stick it out together. In some ways, it feels too simple. And in some ways, it feels really profound. You know, as I think about this, I think that this is really good timing for us as a church family because we're pushing into new things. We're looking at our 4 prayers like we've never done before. How do we make this work? And for some of us, as we work towards this, as we change things around here or as we discern what God is calling us to do in really practical, specific ways, it's going to be really exciting for us. Some of us are going to be like, bring it on. This is the best thing ever. Let's go. All hail King Jesus. And some of us are going to be confused. I used to feel more comfortable. Why do I feel less comfortable? Is this a bad thing? Is this a good thing? Is this just a me thing? And for some of us, it's going to be really hard. We might be pretty scared about it. We might even be angry about some of the things. And for all of those, Jesus' call to us is, stay, remain with me, and I'll be there with you. We'll walk it through. We have the benefit for these people in this scene that we know how it ends for them. The excited people. We know how it ends. Some of those turned angry. Jesus forgives them from the cross. And Jesus ushers in a whole new way of not just bringing about political freedom, but Jesus brought about spiritual freedom in ways that they would never have imagined. Jesus changed everything with his death and with his resurrection. We know how that story ends. For the people who are confused, that verse in of itself says, after they had a minute to think about it, they could see how all of this stuff fit together and it all became clear. If only at that point you could say, you know what, guys, you disciples, in a few days, you're going to be having breakfast with Jesus on the beach, and this is going to make a lot of sense. But it's going to be confusing for now. For the angry people, there was redemption for them too. Jesus' death and resurrection, he forgives them, and he ushers in a whole new way for them to be with God in a different way than they could have before. We can see the end of their story. And sometimes when we're in the middle of our story, it's hard to see that. It's hard to see, just remain, just stay with Jesus, abide, spend time with him. But the truth is, he's no different today than he was then. He was faithful to those people, and he'll be faithful to you. He'll be faithful to us. He'll see us through, and he'll stay with us. And he'll continue to make us into who we were meant to be. So our question this morning for you is, are you floundering or are you flourishing? regardless of why you might be floundering, disappointment or doubt, feeling far from God, remaining connected to Jesus is the way to go from floundering to flourishing. See, you were created for this. For me, as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about the fact that this has been a tough year at school. I work at West Park. I'm the principal at West Park School. And we've come through, do you remember COVID? So, a couple years ago, we shut down as a school for a bit, and everybody had to go home and do home learning, which was kind of terrible. But after that, with regulations, we actually did pretty well as a school. The nice thing about being in this building is we're a relatively small school, and we have a relatively large building, so we could kind of go everywhere in the building, and we could kind of spread out. And that was okay. But then a few years into it, and now there's no real regulations with schools about COVID, but this has been the hardest year of it so far. And here's why. You have students who've been off sick for a really long time, so there's gaps. So everybody now is at different places in their classroom. And you have teachers who are really, really tired because they've been juggling home and being sick and not being sick and having their own kids be sick and trying to juggle everything and trying to fill gaps that kids have. They've been working really, really hard. So if you see anybody who works in a school, maybe give them a hug or something, because it's been a lot. And then add to that, through COVID, lots of teachers decided to leave the profession. So finding new teachers to come and fill spots has been really challenging. And, I've been at the school for a while now, so there's always ups and downs with things like that, but this has been a really tough year. Sometimes I'm very confused. I'm excited about the future for the school. I'm excited about what God is doing, but sometimes I'm downright confused about what's happening and what I should be doing next. And sometimes I'm a little frustrated, probably bordering on angry about, just some of the frustrations that I have. Things like when you have 5 teachers that are all sick, and so I have to spend my whole day covering classes, which is awesome, but then I still have a bunch of work to do, right? So when do I get that done? And everybody's kind of in that mode right now. It's hard. And then I add to that, there's family stuff, as there always is. There's illness in my family. There's things like that. And it just keeps piling on, and it's really hard to feel like you're flourishing sometimes. But here's where the whole connected in thing, and something pretty practical for us to take from, I think, this passage. Every Wednesday night, I get together with a few of my friends for house church. Now, I don't talk about necessarily all of the difficult things to do with COVID and the school and hiring issues or whatever it is. But there's something that happens when you get together for intentional community with other people and you spend time reconnecting together into that vine. There's something that happens. It allows me to flourish. So there's been times when I don't really feel like going to house church. It's been a busy week. I've been out every night this week. I'm out. I don't want to have another night out. I don't want to clean my house and have them come over. What would happen if they saw my house as a mess? But when you push through that, then all of a sudden, I don't know, there's something different that happens on a Thursday morning after the Wednesday night house church that I can actually do this. Nothing magical happens. None of them have ideas or even offer their ideas as to how to help my problems. They pray for me. They pray as I ask them to pray for me. Nothing magical happens at all. And yet there's something about being connected into that vine that allows me to flourish. And I feel like I can do this. We can get through this. And I get to see the perspective of all the amazing things that have happened, all the kids whose lives have been transformed, the teachers who are growing closer to God as they mentor their kids in their classrooms. There's amazing things happening at our school. And there's something really weird, because I won't talk about it necessarily, my actual problems at house church. Sometimes we talk about other things and other people's problems. But it helps me to flourish. So if you haven't been connected into a house church, or you're kind of one of those people who's like, if nothing is going wrong in my week, I'll go, but if anything comes up, I'll skip it. I really want to encourage you to not do that. I really want to encourage you to dive into it. And you'll see that it helps you be connected. It helps you be connected to the vine as you were meant to be, not just connected with other people. There's something spiritual that happens in house church. But it's not like this magical thing where all your problems disappear. You're just able to see through them, and you're able to trust God through that He will be faithful like He has been in the past. There's another thing for us to take with us, and I want to encourage you to do this as we move into communion. Jesus says, abide with me, stay with me, remain with me. And there's different ways that we can do that we can be connected into Jesus, just us with Him. But this morning, as we go into communion, I want to invite you to take it a little differently. What I want you to do is to come up, as the slides will direct you, to take the communion and go back to your spots. And then ask Jesus this question. Just quiet your heart and your mind down and ask Jesus this question. What do you have to say to me this morning? What word, what feeling, what impression, what picture? And then listen. You might hear something. You might hear a word from the song that just resonates with your spirit. You might see a picture like you're daydreaming. You might have a feeling. I promise you it's going to be good. I promise you that when Jesus looks at you, He sees you as His son or daughter, as His child whom He loves. So when you go to Jesus and you say, what do you have for me? It's always really good. Spend some time abiding in Him, asking Him. When you feel ready, take communion, just you and Him, having communion together. You don't have to wait until you feel holy enough or like you've done it enough. You don't even have to wait until you get a picture or a feeling or anything from Him. He's here with you. He's here to meet with you. He's here to show you what He thinks about you. He's here to show you how much He loves you and how much He knows you. And so as you come forward, as we sing and we take communion, listen to Him. Listen to what He has to say to you. And practice that abiding and remaining in Him.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, we live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you, there is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you, there is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be. Sing it out. Surely there is no one like you, there is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. We're going to sing through that bridge a couple more times. So if you can join with me and just see what God has to tell you. I will put my trust on your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will
to abide in him, feel free to do that. If you're confused about anything that you heard, or you're wondering how all that works and you want to pray through that with people, our prayer team are here. And they would love to hear from you, to pray with you, and to show you and to tell you what they hear from God for you. So be sure to come forward to them. And then my encouragement this week is to find more time. Find more time to abide in God's presence, reading and meditating on the Bible, asking God what he sees when he looks at you. And then go to house church this week. He'll see you through wherever it is that you are. His call to us is just to abide, be with him, stay with him. Let me pray for you and bless you. May you know joy as God, your true Father, shows himself clearly to you as you seek him. May you feel him near and be filled up with his joy and peace, now and always. May the lost become found as they see Jesus lifted up in your life. Amen. Have a great week.
Upon your